During the COVID-19 lockdowns, Dragonchain teamed up with Medic Health to provide a solution to allow businesses to reopen. Using decentralized identity, individuals can prove test results without exposing health data to anyone other than their doctor. The privacy-focused and HIPAA-compliant solution was created in only 15 days from concept to operational system.
Hello everyone, welcome to Super Happy Dragon Lucky episode 0x3D, 60-second episode in 3D today. And this week in 3D, first three people that put in the code in the merch store, dragonchain.store, get 10% off items and shirts, mugs, stickers, anything in there. Three people, $10 off each, and the code is live-in-3D. There you go, live-in-3D, because we are in 3D today, because this is the episode 3D. The glories of hexadecimal. Okay. Also this week, we have one guest. From Universal Mind, and we're also going to do an AMA. So let's get into a couple updates and then get everything started. First up, number go up, brought to you by FOMO Hunt. This week we're actually going to look at the portfolio of Ty Blackard. All right, and his portfolio, last week, number go down. Okay, and if we want to look at what is in his portfolio, he has some pretty decent stuff, and Ethereum, Rand, stuff surrounding summer of DeFi, if I believe this is correct, the summer of DeFi, and the analyst prediction for next week, number go up. As always, number go up, brought to you by FOMO Hunt. We love it, and we hope that the crypto Twitter community loves it as well. It's all for you. That's the only reason we do it. Let's see here. So next up, go to FOMO Hunt, create an account, share your portfolio with others. We're going to try to talk to them about some cool stuff that they're doing there, and I think they're just getting started. Some pretty good stuff there already. Next up, we have Universal Mind with Ben Corbel. So, hello, Ben. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, Joe. Good morning from Sydney.
Very good, very good. And what time is it in Sydney?
It's just gone 2:08 in the morning, 2:09.
Yes. Apologies, we're sorry about that. But you'd be up anyway, right?
In my life prior to building blockchain technology and entertainment platforms, I was a DJ, so often work wouldn't start till 3 in the morning. So yeah, full disclaimer. Once upon a time, yes.
Very good, very good. So tell us about yourself. Beyond was it raves? I know it was DJ stuff. What was it?
When I was at school, I started putting on dance parties. I'd run the school formal, and I'd start booking rave DJs and lasers at a school formal, doing my best to bring culture I was really passionate about into like a posh private Catholic school, Catholic boys' school, which was pretty. It wasn't necessarily a natural fit, but that's where it began.
That's why you were successful. This.
Yeah. And then I pitched to my parents a business plan. I said, if I want to get money to manufacture 100 mixtapes, and we're going to sell them through the private school network, and I'm going to use that to buy DJ equipment. And that was when I was about 16. And
wow.
And they agreed, and that was I got a loan from mum and dad to buy these mixtapes, and I made my first mixtape, having no idea how to DJ, but editing together, with an old tape machine, for those who remember, using the recording music off the radio and using the pause button to edit it all together.
I remember
So,
that.
so yeah, and ever since that time, I've been passionate about electronic dance music. It grew very organically from promoting events, starting with birthdays through to raves in the end, and festivals for up to 60,000 people around Australia and New Zealand, with all the world's biggest DJs. You know, a multi-million-dollar venture that was one of the largest within our part of the world, and that was what I did for the first 20 years of my life. And then I pivoted into digital, and we lost, basically the tides changed and the music industry collapsed, and and I needed to do something because I just bought my first home. And I thought, what on earth am I going to do? And so I was like, well, I know how to communicate on the internet, because people that go to dance parties are up to date with technology, and that's how we communicated. So I started a digital agency, I'd studied digital technology and marketing and economics at uni. So I had that, although I hadn't been used, although I'd had another life, it was there dormant. And so I started a digital company. We started doing consulting on social media strategy for eventually the government in Australia and News Corporation, Rupert Murdoch's empire. Big sporting codes, consulting for Facebook ironically on how to communicate and do their ad strategies, and of course in the early days we had trust within the music industry, so I also promoted other people's music events. Yeah.
Nice. So what is Universal Mind now?
Imagine a new world that cares how you feel, and imagine that world rewards you for being yourself and being happy. So Universal Mind is electronic music television awakening happiness. And we measure happiness through connection to ourselves, connection to each other, and connection to our world. And we reward happiness with a universal basic income. So in practical terms, imagine Netflix is able to measure how you feel when you log in simply through your smart phone camera. And through that, instead of having an algorithm that's about making you spend more time on the platform, its primary motivation is to make you feel happy within yourself and understand your emotions, all within complete privacy on your phone, where you control your own health data.
That's funny, because we even we talked about the show last week, and I believe it's a Netflix show that talks about how the social networks are basically just programming people in order to stay on, in order to watch their ads, and other things, and to trace them and know everything about them. And that is actually an interesting angle. I hadn't even brought those two together, because we've been talking to you, and and the fact that you're using some of the same mechanisms, but for good. So that's interesting, right?
Yeah, I mean, we had no idea that the social dilemma would be out around this time, or that
Yes.
it would be coming to light that Facebook was programmed through increasing dopamine hits, and that the general world would be familiar with these concepts, of neurobiology and user experience within the internet. And it just so happens that that's happened. And in really simple terms, when Facebook and most of the algorithms, because they make money from ads and more time spent about creating dopamine hits, which is really just dopamine's another word for addiction, is the behavior attached to it. So Universal Mind is the reverse of this, for an internet where, rather than it being motivated by purely advertising and commercial needs. It puts the human first and the well-being of people and their relationships. And we do that rather than through dopamine, through oxytocin. And oxytocin is the biochemical that our body pumps out when you and I getting along with each other, when we trust each other, and when we're connecting to life, to ourself, to the world around us, and to the people around us. So that's, yeah.
Wow, nice. And you knew early on that you wanted to integrate blockchain tech to incentivize and to what are all of the pieces? I mean, I wouldn't say maybe everything, because you have a lot of partnerships that you have plugged into this. I mean, it's not a small thing, and so what are all of the capabilities or the purposes that you're looking to use blockchain in this?
So the first, that's a great question, and the first time we considered blockchain, we presented to government our very first iteration in 2015, and it was as a mental health internet project, and the government are one of our primary stakeholders, both within development and venture capital. So the government were like, this is awesome, but there are some major problems around the privacy of capturing people's mental health data on the internet. And so that was initially what led us to decentralized solutions for health records. And the next layer to that was we presented to a friend of ours in VC that we were creating, and this is again 2015, early 2015, that universal mind, when every person clicks and joins and subscribes, they're issued equal digital shares. So everyone on the planet in the network has, in one click of registration, becomes an owner of the network in a very meaningful and legal way. And my friend in VC had just returned from Singularity University doing the blockchain course. And he was like, dude, you need blockchain. Were his words pretty much. He was just like, you need blockchain. And I so I met with a lawyer to design the architecture for presenting to government. And he was like, I need more information. So I Googled distributing ownership via blockchain and came across a Swarm Foundation, which was it wasn't a company at that stage. I believe it was an academic white paper about decentralized organizations and the future potential legal ramifications of distributing equity through blockchain. And even the electronic patient records on the blockchain were also a white paper. Having data ownership via blockchain was a white paper, with storage, and Patientory was the other one we were looking at for health records. So Swarm, Patientory, and storage were these hypotheses, and we began on that venture. Yeah.
Excellent. And so we've been talking for a little while. So what brought you into Dragonchain, and what aspects are you considering, and
Yeah, well, I want to start by saying we genuinely love Dragonchain and working with yourself, Joe, and with the rest of the team, with Trey, and look forward to meeting more in the team. We very consciously chose Dragonchain after looking at, I don't know, dozens of blockchain organizations, and having many close friends that chose to develop themselves rather than through another platform, let alone another set of developer team. I'll go through 3 quick points that why we chose Dragonchain, and then just a little summary of why underneath that of what I mean. So the first reason we chose Dragonchain was from your heritage in motion picture, emerging from Walt Disney. So we're a TV entity on the internet working with blockchain, and Dragonchain came from the Walt Disney Company, which we highly respect and aspire to. And so we felt there was many blockchain organizations, dreamy concepts that are all about the brave new world, but not necessarily grounded in real world businesses and services that are true and tried and tested. And Disney is certainly is grounded in everyday life.
Right.
The second reason we chose Dragonchain is that your foundation is open source. You're already focusing on self-sovereign identity and entertainment, of course, because of your origins. And while being an open source foundation, you have commercial services designed for building blockchains for multinational corporations. And as we are open source, while we are open source, we interface with people, with big business and with government. So having something that's robust and enterprise is key for us. And the third reason we love the Dragons is the platform agnosticism with a scalable multi-chain solution. And by that, I mean, in our real world example, there are 8 individual blockchains that are in our API architecture, and we want a universal chain to do all of those functions and then talk out to each of our decentralized nodes. And so Dragonchain is our universal chain, and it talks to Ethereum, where we have an ERC20 utility coin, which is for our basic income. We then have an SRC20 token, which Dragonchain talks to again, which distributes equity through legally compliant ways in each territory to each person seamlessly, frictionlessly. And then we talk to Matic, which is a plasma chain, which powers our wallet. Dragonchain again is talking directly to Tardigrade, where we're live streaming our multimedia content from, and housing an alternative to Amazon S3 for web storage. Dragonchain talks to Patientory for those who opt into medical research. They have a legally compliant, safe and secure way for ownership of their patient records through the blockchain. And even the final two, because it keeps going, and you guys said you're not only are you up to the challenge, that this is what you're designed to do, which blew our minds. We connect to the sovereign chain, interfacing Dragon Factor identity with our choice of using a decentralized open source blockchain for identity, so that we, as we become an API outside of our app, that there's more flexibility and more open opportunity to integration. And the final piece of the puzzle, where our friends at Dragonchain pipe straight in, is for when you become a citizen of Universal Mind, you're registered within the self-sovereign nation state of virtual nation state of Universal Mind, and that's done on BitNation's Pangea blockchain, which is the primary blockchain innovating in virtual nation states. So there you go.
Yeah, I want to say,
thank you.
Oh no, thank you for saying all that, because the funniest thing about it is, I mean, that was the vision when we first started this. Is, you know what, we need to be able to do any of these things that we cannot even anticipate, right? Because, and this is very much one of those. I would have never put together that what you're putting together, but when you go through it, it all makes sense. It's like, wow, okay, this is brilliant, and you have to have spent a lot of time talking to people, doing a lot of research, because you basically have selected all of these different components to handle the different aspects of what you need, and that's why we built what we built. And it's amazing to, you know, to see somebody actually need it in such a capacity. You know, we've had a lot, obviously a lot of cases where people, oh, I need this, right? So okay, we plug that in, but it isn't the, you know, commonplace that we see somebody who needs, you know, today to connect to all of these different pieces, traditional and you know, and next gen, you know, the blockchain pieces, and your selections have been really, you know, very I think well put from, you know, what I know about all. And I've not even been able to keep up with a lot of the projects, you know, through the years here, but you know, your whole architecture is really interesting. And I don't know what, and I guess that leads to, you know, our last bit, that, you know, I don't know what's public yet. You know, I see what comes through in the proposals, and when we you know, estimate things for you, and you know, so I have to drill down into these particular pieces on integration. So that's really deep in my head, but I don't know what you've exposed, so I've been very quiet about everything. So, you know, maybe you can tell everyone where they can go to, you know, in as we progress, you know, and as you build this out, where they can follow you and where they can follow you know, Universal Mind and progress.
So at the moment we're pre-launch. So there's a historic website which you can see on screen, which was created for a mental health research grant a year ago. So while it gives some spirit of what we do, it's very much a historic iteration. So nothing's online at the moment. In the next 4 to 6 weeks, however, the universalmind.tv domain is going to house our phase 1 investor portal. And that portal, through a series of very short animated videos, explains our vision for a more beautiful world with the internet that we know is possible. Technologically, how we're achieving that and innovating with respecting privacy and understanding emotions and happiness through mobile phone technology, through medical grade, FDA approved APIs. And thirdly, the partners we're working with in order to realize this vision. So while we're working with yourselves for blockchain, where our live stream is through an Australian company called Switch, who are the same team that stream Game of Thrones for Foxtel. So, you know, they're huge. They stream for the Olympic Games. So you know, and likewise, all of our development partners are. We certainly haven't gone for cheap. At every point, we're being, who is the best person or best organization on the planet to achieve our goals at a scalable enterprise level way, completely keeping blockchain behind the scenes and creating people-friendly products that are exactly the same as the Netflix app or the YouTube app or Twitch. We're completely simplifying with your assistance, rather than needing to understand how an Ethereum wallet works. I'm so happy that Dragonchain interfacing through your loyalty program. People can spend our Ethereum through the Apple Wallet in the same way that they would spend Flybuys or in Australia we have Woolworths, and you know, spending the loyalty points, and it simplifies and creates utility for everyday people so we're certainly, while we're completely built on blockchain, where our modus operandi is a people-friendly entertainment app that is all about a beautiful TV experience.
Excellent. Well, we love the vision, and it's a really bold vision, and I think, you know, as people, you know, learn more about it, I mean, especially with the components you're talking about, you should be able to, drive adoption. You should be able to do some really neat things. So thanks a bunch for coming on. And, we'll have to have you come on again as you progress if you're open to that, as you move forward. Right.
Absolutely. I mean, there's plenty more. I mean, we didn't really speak about the innovation we're doing together with Your Power in digital rights management, and Ethereum, which I feel is that's an episode all in itself another time.
Yeah, that's true, because I mean there are some really interesting pieces there that we've been frankly waiting for someone to come along to build some of those components that that needs them, because there's some things are relatively simple in concept, and yet really powerful, and right now they're being ignored. So that component alone excites me. If that was all you were building, I would love it. But don't let anyone stop you. Make sure you keep building this thing. Okay. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. And together we'll make it happen. So.
Right on. All right. Thanks, Ben. Ben Corbin, Universal Mind. Okay. Next up, we have a new quick take. A quick take on blockchain proof, measurable proof on the blockchain. All right. So I'm going to go through this, and we'll one way or another, we're going to try to keep this short, but we're wanting to try to make this how do I say this, something that's a short way to present concepts, and we'll do this occasionally, maybe once a month. So today, measurable proof on blockchain. All right. So what is proof? I mean, everybody generally knows what proof is. It's an evidence or an argument establishing or helping to establish a fact, or the truth of a statement. It could be a court case. Similar things. People know this. There are cop shows, lawyer shows, obviously, forever about things like this. And we, though, with blockchain, came on pretty early to the concept that using the hash power of Bitcoin, even when we were at Disney, that this was one of the concepts that we brought in to the enterprise, that a huge value at for using blockchain itself is the fact that you can apply more than just the proof itself. I mean, because if you look at examples of proof that that can be provided by blockchain, it is obviously that an event occurred, that the data has not been changed. People tend to know those things, or those are the things you hear about blockchain a lot, that you can have proof that the information was derived from source data. But the one that we've really tied into a lot, because we feel that this was deeper even than the proof that the data didn't change, was the proof that the data was in a certain state and has been unchanged, but that event happened between 2 points in time. And the interesting thing about it is because since with Dragonchain as an example, sensitive data can be kept private, yet it can be proven at any time after the fact that this sensitive data, or potentially sensitive data, it comes with it the capability to handle GDPR, CCPA, HIPAA, or other regulatory compliance, depending on where you are in the world, and that because we are only decentralizing the proof itself, this measurable proof, that you have, in my opinion, a much better privacy capability than you would ever have with a public blockchain encryption strategy. That is, a lot of, especially in the early days, people were saying, okay, well, how do we store big data, and how in particular do we store sensitive data? Because these blockchains are public. If you're talking about Bitcoin, if you're talking about Ethereum in particular, and if that data is out there and it's on chain and it's decentralized all over the world, it frankly doesn't matter if it's encrypted. It doesn't matter if it's encrypted to, the best tech that we have today, because within 5, 10, 20 years, that encryption will be broken, or will very likely be broken, and that data is already out there. So everybody has access to it, and they can now look at everything that happened back then and pull out all your customer data, pull out anything that would be important to you, or a lot of which might be illegal even. So who knows what the legal implications are of that, and the liability of you having put that out there. So the fact that with the hybrid blockchain network that we can hold the data, it can be decentralized, it can be centralized, but basically that you can control the data. It's not on the chain, but the important part of it is that the proof is. Now, if you need to store data on chain, and that does occur, there are obviously systems to do that. There are blockchain, and I won't go through all of them because I don't know the state of all of them right now, but obviously we are working to get integrations with some of them, and frankly we're waiting for people to need that. It also means that we have a decent level of quantum resistance built in, because the data isn't on chain, number one, and because there are enough decentralized both trust systems and various proofs, proof of work, proof of stake systems involved as well. And what it gives you is timestamping. It gives you the ability to say, okay, my contract is as it was, and even if it's a human readable, traditional, real world, go to your lawyer contract, or if it's a licensing contract, or the use of a license as an example, or if it's versioning data, things like this, so that here is the contract in draft, here is version 1, here is version 2 after all the red lines, here is version 3, and it was signed by both parties on chain. You can now go back and nobody knows precisely the legal implications of this yet either, but the fact that you could use it as evidence in court, and the entire vision of this, even from the days when we were at Disney, was that you would have the best of both worlds. You would have, the fact that I'm saying this is what is used in court today. And he was like, well, here it is, it's an email. It's like, well, could you fake that email? Yes, and you could bring an expert in and hopefully trust that expert to say that it wasn't faked or that it was faked, but you don't really have a way to measure it. You're talking about a lot of legwork saying, is that expert compromised? Did you pay the expert? All of these things that, they really do happen. People pay the experts to say what they want said. The experts go in, they get paid high dollar, they say what the client wants them to say, and then the judge or jury kind of decides based upon, I think I like this guy better because he was clean shaven, right? Who knows? That's what happens in the real world. And so we wanted to apply the fact that you would have an independent source. So like in Dragonchain, we have a notary verification node that specifically, we knew that Disney would approve it, right? That it would be either an external party or a party that is relatively or completely independent that can sign a hash. They don't have to see any of the data. All they have to do is sign that hash in a chain, and you can use the fact that this entity that is a real person or a real organization had signed what I'm now telling you is the state of that data as it was at that time. And the part that I really was surprised that we convinced Disney to let us add was the connection to Bitcoin. And we had added that in 2016. The guy that wrote it is still with Dragonchain. We hired him out after Disney. Amazing dev. Great dev, and he's leading the core team now, and he was the first to write basically a hybrid blockchain connection to Bitcoin. And we call it interchain, and others have since claimed it. And if you can look up paid articles on Cointelegraph. In fact, there was, someday we'll have to release some of that stuff because it was hilarious that they were. There was a paid article that we did this first in 2018, and like, guys, it's like we did it a while ago, and we have a patent on it, by the way. So one way or another. This time stamping is important, though, because it's the first time that you can actually prove that something happened, or that data was in a certain state between 2 points in time. And it is because of the hash power applied. It is because you have staking power that you can actually tie a number to it. So, we're talking about an extrapolated value of energy applied. So once we go to a level 5 node in Dragonchain, the interesting thing about it is that it's not just, it's on Bitcoin also. I mean, that's a good thing, but it is actually only good because we can give, and we do give a relatively conservative estimate of the amount of energy applied. And we use some pretty well-established formulas on the yield, the power of certain miners, Bitcoin miners and Ethereum miners, and we take the tracked hash power, and this is estimated, but the tracked hash power over time to basically tell you how much energy was applied every day, every month, and every year. And so we're talking about literally $8 million a day of hash power is applied for every single transaction that goes on Dragonchain. And in time, every month, that's 250 million a month, and it's about 3 billion a year of applied energy. And that's for every transaction, no matter the cost. And the costs range from $1 at the high end to 25 10 millionths of a dollar at the low end, depending on how much time you apply. And it's extremely scalable, as we've shown in the past as well. What this gives you, and the main point of a lot of this is, let's say you have sensitive data. We make it very expensive for someone to fake you out, to manipulate that data without you having a signal that they have attempted or are manipulating the data. That is, not only is it, if I have a tweet up there, and I put it through and I show you, this person said this in a tweet. You can say, okay, would they spend, $40 million to fake this data, right? And and they probably wouldn't spend $40 million, depending on what it is. Maybe it's a politician or something. But if it were plans for a part of a weapons system on a carrier, right? Yes, a nation state might spend $100 million. They might spend $750 million to fake that data. So in that case, you also have not only the simple dollar figure, you also have the ability to look at the forks and the simultaneous, the fact that you have, if you have, as an example, multiple forks post-transaction time, and they have reorganized to a point prior to your transaction, you would know in that case that you have, a reason to be concerned, that you might want to, check your data, go back and, re-verify or anything else, because, these things have never happened in history. You haven't had any simultaneous forks. You haven't had any forks on multiple chains occurring at the same time, is what I'm talking about. And the rarity of that would be such that before you knew about it, the entire world would know about it. So that is what we're talking about. And if you go to, like, say, our BeakC system and you look at the trading report, you can see that, in fact, I think this is one of the ones we published, and we tend to use it as an example, that we have about $700 million applied in security to this single trade transaction since August 1st, right? So this thing this transaction happened on August 1st at about 5 o'clock Eastern. See, I didn't take this screenshot because it's Eastern time, right? I can't remember who took the screenshot. I know now. And so, since that time, and no matter what that transaction cost, and it was likely very low cost transaction because there are a lot of them, we have $700 million of security applied, and in a year's time it'll be about $3 billion, which is super interesting. And we haven't done an exhaustive search yet, but we have a lot of them in there that are, past $1 billion worth of security applied. And so, you can go and look at those, and it's an interesting piece. And this capability, we've known. I mean, we've had the data, we've had everything, but it took us a while to get the calculations in, to get everything vetted, to get it plugged into the system, and it's all there now, and we're rolling it out to all the different proof reports as we go on. So that is a quick take. Hopefully, it was quick enough, and I didn't ramble too much. But anyway, next up, we have, before we do the AMA, we do have an announcement, and it is basically we've had this for a while. We were actually waiting for them to be ready to put it out. Snohomish County in Washington State, just north of us here in Bellevue, came to us, wanting to figure out a few things they could do with blockchain. They had some interesting things related to emergency management, and this would have been in 2019, right? And we were talking to them about building out various systems. They had historical cases where they wanted to improve their communications during emergencies, and we went through a number of different possibilities. What we could do. We got them comfortable with the technology and what could be done, and they had some really brilliant potentials. Some of which were probably not politically expedient, not easy to actually build out. But we ended up centering on this emergency management system and tracking a few different supplies and doing contract work through their systems that already existed. And so this was just a prototype, but it was really interesting because Snohomish County ended up with the very first COVID-19 case in the United States. And so it was direct north of us, which kind of freaked everybody out here. And yet, they had some of these systems in place, and we talked to them, and they were crazy busy, of course, trying to get all of the you remember back in January, February, all the ventilators and PPE and everything else. So it was really well placed because we had already been working with them on a lot of these pieces, and so this is their. Go read the press release. We'll probably have some more info on it to come, but it's basically using blockchain properly for what it's best for, to track what really happened and to help decentralize what needs to be decentralized and make it so that people have a trusted source of proof that they can know that this really is the most recent action plan. This really is what was done at that time. And it's just a better way to handle communications in a situation like that, especially if you have known protocols and things that have to be fail safe. So excited about the possibility of working with them in the future. They're I think just started getting into the technology, so there's a lot going on. So that's everything. We're going to be right back with live AMA. I don't know if you guys have questions or not already, but right after this.
But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win. We choose to go to the moon.
All right, welcome back. Okay, so we have questions up, and behind the scenes, we're going to have people. They're going to be popping up in front of me. So we'll see how well this works. By the way, someone might have already asked this question. Where's Rocco? So we moved to the morning because we realized viewership was down a little bit. Number one, but also it was because after a long day of meetings and dealing with trolls, not really too much, and doing all of the stuff that we do, having a show late in the afternoon was always kind of rough. So we thought, let's go back to morning. Let's keep it on Tuesday, and it gives us morning in the West Coast U.S., morning East Coast U.S., end of day in Europe, and about midnight in Asia, or late in Asia, as we see 2 a.m. for Ben. But that unfortunately meant that Rocco, who is a teacher, couldn't be on. He'll still be back on, and we'll have specials, and maybe they'll have days where they don't have school. Maybe snow days we can have Rocco come in, right? We do miss him, and hopefully we'll have him back at some point. But questions. John Smith wins staking on YouTube, I think. Staking. So you could consider time staking. Some people always wanted us to call it staking. It was an interesting thing because after we came out with it, someone actually came out with a full-on white paper for, and am I gonna remember it? It was called, I can't remember. There was a description of what we had already built in a white paper, which amounts to the fact that unlike staking, you don't have to have your keys on the node, or you don't have to run the node yourself. You only have to claim that address, and you can prove that you own that address, and we from that point can prove that you hold the dragons in that address, and can then measure the time based upon a known algorithm, and can then use that time in this hybrid system to let you run a node independent of those keys. So you can basically have the keys in a cold wallet forever, and you can still collect rewards for doing verifications, as an example, or pay lower fees as a business running on the system. So that might not be what you're talking about, but that was necessary to describe. That if you're talking about staking for some of the things coming out with DIN, there will be more info on that. We're hoping to have info next week in detail, at least the beginnings of the detailed info describing how that's going to work, and that might be what you're talking about. But it'll be soon. We have all of the contracts in test. Things people are, I think we're testing this week, starting to test everything this week with other people outside the team, and we might do something broader, but I think it's pretty solid. We've done a lot of testing internally already, and there will be components with that to I don't know if it'll be called staking. I don't know what DeFi calls it, but it is in essence staking, to participate in the crypto side of the DIN system. So John Smith also on YouTube, is Dragon Scale coming? We believe so. We basically have all the verbal agreements together for to begin things, and it's going to be a slow start, okay? Because we want to make sure we do it right. We want to make sure everything is considered, if it hasn't already been. But we're looking at starting in Europe, but there are a couple other avenues as well that it might expand to, and it very much will be a hybrid system where you have traditional pieces involved and something that is at least looking like it's going to happen. That it did take a while, was to get the traditional investment side in the house, that to get them involved, because frankly what Dragonscale is signaling, so it's normal people who know about markets all over the world, and it's you think about it, it's tying an information market to VC. And we had in my opinion, I was very surprised even in 2018 that the VCs were not just gung-ho about it, because what we were talking about is giving them much better signaling on an evaluation of projects than you could ever hope to have in their little boardroom of 6 guys that play golf together. And they, but they weren't. We couldn't find any interest in pretty much anywhere. And a lot of it was maybe they didn't understand it. A lot of it was because of uncertainty with regulatory and everything else. But what we were trying to do was model what they were already doing, but adding a signaling component. So it's coming. So the answer is yes, I guess. And we hope that it rolls out really well, and we'll let you know, right? So just make sure when we put it out there that you come in and participate, because if you don't participate, then it won't work, right? Okay, from Spansel. Hi Joe, any update about open source money distribution on another platform? We don't have an update yet. I can tell you it is coming. We have at least one of the deals completed. There will be an announcement. There is an answer to the Science Channel question. And there is another platform that will see, it'll make you guys happy internationally, that it will be available around the world. It won't be something that you have to have a U.S. account and a VPN to get to, or have to go through a meetup with a bunch of other people that have access streaming to you. So because that happened a lot. There were a lot of people that did watch it through Google Meet, if I recall correctly, because they couldn't access it otherwise, which is the absurdity of digital rights management and licensing in the world. And it, I think it's going away. So we're going to have something out there pretty soon, and you'll love it. Okay. Also, Spansel. There's a lot of talk about digital currencies. The latest from the European Central Bank. What do you think? So I think a lot of them pay it lip service. If you watched in around, I think it was around 2016, from between 2015 and 2017, that if you remember, if you look back, it was really funny to me that the Bank of England would put out something. We're going to go to a cryptocurrency based, for a replacement of fiat, and within a month, someone else at the bank would say, "That's crazy. We're not doing that," and it would go back and forth, and it was really weird because it would be in publicly announced, and who knows why they were doing it. I have guesses, but now China's saying that, and a lot of the shills will be on everywhere saying that it's going to take over the world, and we're going to all have to learn Chinese and transact in their whatever their digital currency is for the CCP decides. I guarantee if it's CCP, there'll be pump and dump involved. So a lot of you traders will probably love that. That might be why you're angling for it, but it's not going to happen. They might make it, and frankly, most money in the world is already digital currency. The thing that it isn't is universally governed digital currency or pre-programmed digital currency. It is all right now just fiat. We're going to print some. Oh, we need to print some more. Oh, we need to print some more. And I even have theories on the U.S. side of that. A lot of people talk about, oh my God, and I've thought this forever, that even after the early 2000s and then the middle 2000s, that we were headed for radical inflation, because no or few countries in the world have ever printed that much money that fast, and yet my thought now is that they're probably going to just wipe out the debt to China, and so they'll convert to gold, or hopefully there'll be cryptocurrency involved in there, but I kind of doubt it actually, but it's still, that's what's probably going to happen. So and it's already all digital, but the thing that's really missing is the transparency of how it comes in, where it goes, how it's made, and who gets it, right? Because right now when they print money, it just goes to the big banks, typically foreign big banks, for whatever reason, and then it's just held. So it's kind of a pointless operation. Next, Jared Houston, hashes on the privately held data, which are then posted to the public chains, are a form of zero-proof knowledge. Yes, I wouldn't call it that, because typically, and I always kind of get anxious when somebody calls it that. It is literally that, but when people say zero-proof knowledge, they usually mean of a particular algorithmic construct. It's something that has a name, and there's a particular very interesting and amazing technology involved. Our take on that is that what the crypto world knows as zero-proof knowledge is a really amazing tech, and there are some use cases for it, but in a vast majority of cases, especially with real businesses, it is unnecessary, because as a software architect, it's always been one of my main tools to tell people that don't rely or force technology when what you already know structurally is better. That the world, and you could apply this to software, but I think this applies to everything literally in the world, that structure is the most important thing in any system. That if you have a badly structured system, technology will never save you. It's going to break down, it's going to kill you, it's going to annoy you, it's going to annoy your users forever, right? If you have a well-structured system, things are going to be easier, they're going to be cheaper, they're going to be more scalable, and it's all about figuring out where the points in your system need to be able to move. And that's what we're all about. And part of that is the fact that you can apply structure to all of these privacy issues, to blockchain scaling issues. Structure is where it's at, and if you apply the right structure, you solve any problem. So it is literally, it is the same thing, as it attacks the same problems as zero-proof knowledge, but in my opinion, it's radically better, because I can literally prove to you that barring compromise, or which is, it's easier, by the way, in the already existing world of DevOps best practices, to protect a system that's holding my sensitive data, than it is to trust a zero knowledge proof that is not really tested in the real world. There's not enough information protected by zero-proof knowledge out there to know whether it would stand up to the attacks that already exist out there. That people hold zero-day exploits. They hold all types of, and I say people, I say usually nation states. They hold these tools already, and they're only going to use them when they really need to use them. It's just like all of the alien tech that that the U.S. has. It's a psychological thing, but it's also, you're not going to know that it's there until it's old, and until there's a real war, right? And that's the same thing with zero-proof knowledge. So anyway, Spancel, YouTube, any date for the launch of the new CTLC? So CTLC was Captured Time Lending Contract, if you remember, and it was I think we decided on that name in about 30-minute span of time, because we didn't have time to come up with anything else, and everybody was so mentally exhausted getting everything running. for that release that we just stuck with CTLC. So we're going to change that name, number one. But let me think here. We're working on a couple of things, and right now I'm angling towards some really interesting changes to the verification node implementations, where our goal is to make them much cheaper to run. I can't promise that will be out, but it is tied to this because it led to us looking at how we can build this out, and this is also a part of what we're rolling out for one of the changes we've made to the way that we sell the system to enterprise. That part of that is, whenever we go sell to an enterprise, you can imagine if we have to explain to them blockchain, we have to dispel issues that other blockchains have with scalability, with privacy, with trolls, and we have to basically frame it in a way that they don't have to have all these questions. They don't have to know everything about it, but they can just come in and say, okay, I'm going to put $5,000 a month and I'm going to use these nodes to do this, right? That's what we want. And so part of that is somebody has to provide time. And at some point we I don't know how you describe this, but we had occasionally for some of the strategic projects used Dragonchain's time, and people's like, oh, should we do that? And well, the CTLC was not well, it was built to a certain level, but we couldn't build as a marketplace because, frankly, we don't want to be in a position where we have to register as an exchange or anything like that. So, well, how do we do this? And we think that we found a way. We think it's relatively simple, and in particular, it might solve a lot of or it might answer a lot of the questions that people have had about, as an example, time that develops after you've already staked your time or applied it to nodes, that time is just kind of sitting out there until you come back into the console instead of set it up. So we're going to try to basically plug in a lot of those things where time that isn't staked will just go over to this pool where people will buy it when they come in with enterprise, right? And it'll be totally white glove treatment that they won't know how to do it. It'll just happen. They say, oh, I'm going to come in at this level, and therefore my transaction fees are this much, and I'm paying this much a month, and part of that monthly fee goes to the people whose time is there ready to be used. So it'll be an interesting thing. We're trying to figure out right now a lot of the pieces on, how do you know, or how do we know which place is more valuable to put it, right? So that's part of the interesting stuff that's going on behind the scenes. Okay, next. Jared Houston, what was your reasoning using Redis search? Was there another contender like MongoDB, maybe? That went to the devs, fully delegated. They did run it by me. It sounded everything they had was a clean. It did bring up a couple of issues, like say if I remember right, and I might be totally wrong here because it might have been the caching and not the search, but I think it was the search that kept us from initially deploying on Raspberry Pi, right? And I have a Raspberry Pi over here somewhere. It's all plugged in, so I can't show it to you. But we have so we had to basically write some code to remove that for some of the nodes. And in fact, we realized that you didn't need to have Redis search when you're running some of the verification nodes, because you don't need to do the searches that you would need to do if you're running a business node. So that's the most I can tell you. I've used MongoDB in the past. It is awesome. I've also used Couch, but PostgreSQL is the best database. Just remember that, everybody. Jared Houston also, is there a blockchain explorer available for all 5 chains of Dragonet, where we can see all the hashes from the private nodes posted? This is interesting because this is one of the very things that I'm trying to pull down and really clean up, because we had, let me see if I want to go into this. Do I want to talk about this or just leave it as a surprise? I'll give you a little bit. It is basically that right now, as you know, every node has its own chain. very few people have asked this, but it has come up maybe once or twice. And those people are brilliant, right? Because they've pulled into something. I can't remember who it is. I don't know if I'd say who it is if I remembered, but to ask about, in particular, what happens when one of those nodes goes down? Because theoretically it's an independent node, it has its own independent chain. What if that level 3 goes away? Well, our answer has always been that that node, all of that data is already existing in all of the business nodes that care about it. That node actually doesn't really care about it. It has a chain. And it was always this thing that kind of, when I talk about structure, it was one of the unanswered questions. It was one of the things I never really needed to get into because it works and the nodes that have them. But when I started looking at, okay, it was just, shower thought type stuff where it was, I had never really thought about this, but the only person that cares, the only node that cares about those verifications is the business node. And therefore, we're probably, I'll go ahead and tell you, we're probably going to, and this is a question of whether I can convince the devs to fit it in, because I put so much on their plate all the time that this is just one more thing. But it's particularly important because, how do I say this? The node that cares about it should be assembling all of those chains. So what I'm considering to do is to move the chains for every level down to the business node. So even though the chain will be made up of verifications, so let's say I have a level 4 chain, that will be made up from all of the, I can't remember how many level 4s there are right now. Those will all get blocks in my level 4 chain. And the beauty then is that every business or every system can decide on their own whether they would want to employ the data that is already present within the SDK and the console to provide their own block explorer for that entire chain. Like say for Eternal, that you could then follow one level 4 to another, and it would all be held by the Eternal node, and they would be tied to each other. Whereas right now, and I have some particular little tricks that I'm still working through that I think we can do it without requiring everybody to deploy at once, without breaking stuff. That's one of the not fun parts about new releases is not breaking what's already out there. But the goal of that whole project is to make it possible to have a fully stateless verification node. They don't have their own chains. They could run theoretically in a WordPress site. It would basically be a web service endpoint. It would be extremely small. The only ones that I'm really much worried about are level 2s if you have a high scaled need that, if I have 10 or 20,000 transactions in a block or something, that I would be worried about timeouts and stuff. So that's one of the questions on the table. So that was a big answer, but it's pretty cool stuff. And Distant Dave, how's it going? Are you here's a question for Dave actually. When are you going to come back on the show? Because we probably have you come back on and tell us what's going on in your world these days, especially with Divi and everything else. And if you're ready for Den, right? Because that's you have the music layer and all that. So okay, so what's up? So what's been using up your brain power the most lately? Trying to explain to my many Democrat Party friends, trying to explain Trump. It's not easy, but it's worthwhile. It's a good thing. It'll bear fruit at some point. And then all of these things, basically trying to get contracts closed, trying to get through all the proposals. We put out a bunch of proposals in the past few weeks, some really interesting ones. Trying to, I guess Den is probably for the whole team, probably the biggest all-encompassing project across the board. And the funny thing is it ties into a bunch of the other projects that there are. identity pieces that we're working in multiple, we're working on with Rainmaker, we're working on with SafePass, we're working on with DIN, and there are, a lot of these things that, mobile implementations, trying to plan all of the token contracts for DIN, trying to plan the how do we market the rollout, and we're going to be using Rainmaker, we're going to be doing hopefully some interesting stuff, but it's it's not, it's a marathon, right? We have a bunch of things we have to get done really fast, but after that, it's just going to be, building it and hoping that the whole mechanism actually turns over, right? That you have to have a lot of the pieces in place for it all to make sense together. And so you get, if it is, I want to say profitable. If it's profitable to write content, or profitable to evaluate content, or you are then going to get more content and better content, and it will keep improving, and that'll attract more visitors, which will attract more content. And it all very much does rely upon the ability of a writer or a meme lord to actually be able to get matter out of that and then use it, right? And we have a number of really interesting ways coming out that give all of these tokens more than a single utility. I mean, there's more than one use for matter. There's more than one use for lore, so on and so on. And that, I think, is going to be interesting as long as we get some honest appraisal, which is always the part that's not, I'm going to assume it's not going to happen, and if it does, I'll be so taken aback that I'll let you know. But DIN is the big one, and I will say we're going to have it's at least we're planning to have the big walkthrough of the white paper hopefully next week on the show, and it's not final, but we're prepping for that, and it's taking a lot of time. I did so much work last night putting formulas into the white paper and fixing them and basically double checking, is this correct? And you have to go look at code and stuff. So anyway, DIN's probably the biggest thing right now for me going on. Let's see here. What's next? New interchains. We have a couple people looking for it, but we don't have anything moving right now. We have one. We do have one group they're awesome, and we're I'm not sure the timing for it, but we're hoping that happens. And then we have a couple of other things that are plugged into other systems, like say with BIN and a few others that might have some good interchain applications, but I don't know the timing on that. So okay, that's an hour 12. So sorry it took so long, but thanks so much for watching. Like the video, follow us, and see you next week. It'll be same time again, Tuesday morning in the U.S., and we'll see you then. Bye.